One of the most interesting conversations I had the opportunity to participate in was one with my little brother Mo, and it was about when he had to do some time, for some pretty much for not snitching on somebody. He ended up taking the rap and doing the time, and it was like this big intricate web of like high-end people involved, plus people you would never think of. And it was just really weird to try to figure out how in the world did they even come into contact with one another. But that's something that that he can talk about. He's a very talkative guy. Likes he's a conversationalist. So if you ever get a chance to talk to him, he's like an open book. You can just ask him whatever, and he's got this confidence about his experiences. So just definitely somebody to try to reach out to and talk to, especially after this little presentation here. So to get started, I wanted to let you guys know, like back in 2018, my little brother was invited to the International Center of Photography in New York. He was invited there to speak about carceral aesthetics. Now the topic was about inmates who were artists and how their works were either exploited or destroyed while they were serving time. Now you would have things from the staff would confiscate and sell their artworks. Inmates had to smuggle their artworks to the outside world. It was crazy at how influential art was, even behind bars while people were serving time. Art is still a big thing, even there.
Right. And it's a pill that was being administered symbolically, like to the system, and at the same time to the people that were perpetrators, because they were balancing that. If you understand what I'm saying. And it was just my interpretation of her. It's actually like you actually read the chapter, you'll get a more detailed synopsis of why that pill pertains to her. Right. It's just my depiction.
No, you're good.
No, I was actually
Oh, okay. So you didn't do state time in Florida. Well,
and 5 different facilities. So, I know.
Well, I know in Kansas, y'all probably have it just like us, where you have bad prisons and you have the sweet prisons. Carl City was one of those sweet prisons, so I depicted it as Candyland.
Yeah. The last one I was in was the sweet prison.
Yeah. And then in that same chapter, I talked about a guy that was known as the Nutcracker, so I depicted him as literally a Nutcracker. You probably guess why he got that name.
A lot of different names.
Yeah, all this stuff just pertains to what's in that chapter. So everything that I touched on is in there. And it's ironic that you related to this one.
I looked at him.
We kind of documented our trip to go up to New York. He was supposed to fly, but instead of flying, he asked me if I would tag along with him and just kind of document the trip. So we just made it a road trip leaving from Orlando, Florida to Manhattan, New York, which was a great road trip. We stopped by a few different places that we're going to point out here later on, just to kind of give his take on certain events that happened. Back to the carceral aesthetics, there's some videos that he has where he's having a speech with a couple of women who are like highly specialized in this kind of research and investigation, and they discuss how they help inmates gain credit or payment for their artworks. And my brother goes on to explain, his firsthand experience of having to smuggle his artworks over the years. One of the most fascinating things he talks about is a pencil that was only about an inch and a half or 2 inches in length, and how he managed to make it last over the years in order to draw. He could make minimal mistakes, if any, and his eraser was made from toilet paper.
The amount of abuse and surveillance and everything, how did you do that work, and how did you preserve it, and how many of these illustrations did you do?
Starting off, I was one of those activists in prison. I actually, like I told you, I was acquiring all this knowledge on how different parts of the government function. I learned about the grievance process, and I became what they call a writ writer, and I started writing grievances on behalf of abused inmates, and I'm putting petitions in the courts to get people, to get inspectors to investigate abuse. Like, I was doing stuff that could get me killed. It was an attempt on my life, but as a result of being that type of person, I was committed to confinement for years. They kept me in the box. The only way that I could get draw materials, you know, in prisons, you can have your relatives send you stamps. And my beloved Wendy here, she used to send me books of stamps. And I would trade these stamps off as long as the confinement orders would smoke me in a piece of a pencil. And, you know, on certain days of the week, I knew to check the mashed potatoes, it's a pencil in there. I wouldn't have an eraser, but I have something to draw with. I just sharpen it on the ground. And whenever they serve me with another disciplinary report, give me another 30 days, I just turn it over, draw it back up.
How big was the pencil?
Tiny, man. Like, broken piece. A fragment of a pencil.
Frustrating urinary symptoms of BPH, like needing to go frequently, day or night. Tell your doctor about all your medical conditions and medicines, and ask if your heart is healthy enough for sex. Do not take Cialis if you take nitrates for chest pulmonary hypertension, as it may cause an unsafe drop in blood pressure. Do not drink alcohol.
What did he do, man?
Side effects may include headache, upset stomach, delayed backache, or muscle ache. To avoid long-term injury, get medical help right away for an erection lasting more than 4 hours. If you have any sudden decrease or loss in hearing or vision, or any symptoms of an allergic reaction, stop taking Cialis.
Murder one.
Medical help right away.
Book him, Dano. I was incarcerated during this time when all this was going on. So even as, you know, people were talking about, you know, how he was inspiring people, I was incarcerated. So every time I look around, I was seeing the same things. I was seeing the same stuff from before he ran to after he ran. Nothing changed. Some things got worse. So it was like, while I was still happy to see it happen, it didn't
affect your world.
It didn't affect my
so
world.
your head is under the water.
Exactly. It's Lady Justice that's dipping my head under there.
Yeah.
I feel this one's about
Are these
justice too. It
ghosts?
seems like with the system, you know, the courts deciding
Yeah.
things like that. You know.
Yeah, so this was the
There's
one
no
that
fair
we were
trial.
looking at a lot, and we couldn't figure out maybe what you were saying exactly.
Oh,
There were theories on it.
The justice
I'm
system
not
is
telling
demonic.
you.
The demonic court system.
No, this was a very personal experience. While I was in prison, I learned that they use chemical agents on people, like ritualistic, and they have a form of tear gas that really kill you, and they call it Black Jesus.
Oh,
That's the nickname for the
that's
tear gas.
Black Jesus down there, right?
And the can, yeah. You talking about this one right here?
No, the one where
Oh,
the
where the-
KKK.
Oh yeah, he's spraying the can, and the chemical agents are turning it into Black Jesus.
Oh.
Because that's the name that they give the chemical agents. And they use some of that tear gas on me, but I survived. They'll say that you were causing a disturbance in the cell, and say that you needed chemical agents to be applied to you to quell your disturbance. And you might be in there reading the Bible or something, but it's still going to happen. And either you die or you don't. When they did it to me, I survived. So that's why I'm standing on top of it. And I was actually well versed in the law. I've been going to the law library and studying. And they ended up publishing a case law, federal case law. So that's why you have the judge raising my hand. Victory. Exactly. So
Oh, that's awesome.
here above the top, you got one judge writing, one judge reading, and the other judge just watching, because when they publish the case law, and it something in my favor, an actual law against them. And for me, it was like he was just watching. He signed it into effect, just wanted to watch the results. Here, since it was this whole picture was in the form of a statue, I used like the old Roman style bars to represent the prison bars. And they had actually took my mattress and my pillow and my sheets and everything. So here I have one officer clutching my blanket and my mattress like hitting my pillow because they're all angry. And that's what they intended.
But they're
Still victory at the end.
Yeah, still victory.
All they could do was take your pillow. You know, and it's an ineffectual tool hitting you with a pillow.
Yeah.
You know, so that's really cool. I like that very good.
Yeah, I'm about to publish a book about all of this.
Is it going to be illustrated like this?
Oh yeah, each chapter is going to have one of these, and like everything I just told you is going to be explained in that chapter.
Okay, I'm going to put this house.
And we came into contact because I was in confinement with somebody who knew her. He was like, man, your art is amazing. I know somebody who's in this industry, in the art world, who can help you get your work out there. And he gave me a postcard with some of her art on it, and it had an address to the gallery in the back. And I wrote, she wrote back.
The rest is history.
The rest is history.
Did you have to hide them?
Yes.
How?
Legal work. I had to hide them through my legal work. I just make it look like a random piece of paper. So when they come and ransack my room, they just see piles and piles of legal work. It's easy for them to overlook it. Some of it did get captured and ripped to shreds. And I did my best to recreate some of that stuff, but it's never the same. It's never the same.
Once we got up near Jacksonville, we talked about documenting the trip even more, you know, which meant we would have to make a few stops rather than the initial straight drive. My plan was just to document his progress since he had been released, but he had some specific spots in mind and some things he wanted to say. I was cool with that, and we kept driving. Our first stop was Charleston, South Carolina. My brother wanted to visit the site where Dylan Roof took the lives of 9 innocent black people at the Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church, which is right in downtown Charleston.
Well, I had to do it because somebody had to do something. Because, you know, black people are killing white people every day.
This place open?
What's that?
Nope.
I couldn't tell you that, I'm not sure.
Is that why you chose that church?
Oh, yes.
Because you were looking for African Americans.
Right. I wasn't going to go to another church, you know, because there could have been white people there.
Man, it's really hard to say. I don't feel any specific type of way. I was really observing the escape route. You know, I'm surprised that there's so many buildings in this area and nobody heard as many gunshots as they say were fired. You know what I mean? 'Cause I was, you know, being from Florida and seeing it on the news, I would have expected this to be like in some type of remote area. You know, it don't look like the type of place where you can commit a crime and get away with it so easily and escape to another state. You know what I mean? It's kind of odd.
Charleston shooting suspect Dylan Storm Roof got a free meal from police on his way to jail. They went to Burger King. After about 16 hours on the run, the admitted mass murderer complained to cops arresting him in Shelby, North Carolina, that he was hungry, so police got him food from the nearby fast food joint, according to an account of his arrest in the Charlotte Observer.
You know, somebody put so much thought and effort into a murder like this. This was like, it was masterminded. You know, it coincided with the mass lynching that occurred in the same place centuries ago. You know, and this was just, it was ritualistic in a sense. To make that day so important, I don't know, it's more like he was more concerned with that ritual as opposed to just killing people, man. And I think about, you know, the fact that people were killed in the church. It's like, man, it's just crazy, man. It's crazy. When I think of South Carolina, I think of, you know, just the stuff that I see on TV. You know, this is my first time being here, and I wanted to get a feel of the people. You know, when you walk around, it's like, where exactly are these people's heads at? And I noticed when we walked into a gas station on the way here, there was a group of white dudes that looked at me like I was an alien or something, man. And it was like, you know, did they look at me because, you know, it's their first time seeing a black person this month or something? I don't know. Or was it more like, were they on edge because they could sense that I'm unaware of the racial tensions here? I don't know. It's hard to call, you know, because not very far from here you had the Walter Scott situation. And it's like, man, you know, are the people of South Carolina different than us? You know what I mean? When it comes to that awareness of racial tensions, are we blind in a sense? Because it seems like everywhere I went here, people were more aware of who they were and who I was, more so than I saw down in Florida, man. And it's creepy. Kind of scary.
A woman spotted this fool in Shelby, North Carolina, and called the police. You know, I'm very curious as to know how he made it that far after a mass shooting in broad daylight.
Maybe he had a different sense of what somebody like him could actually get away with as opposed to people like you and I. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just waiting on the police to come and ask us why are we in front of the church. You know what I mean? The police are right there with their lights on. You know, somebody like him could just walk up into this, well, could have in the past, could have walked up to a place like this and would not have brought too much attention to himself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And even walking out, if they hear gunshots in an area like this, they probably gonna run straight to the hood.
Yeah, they hear gunshots right now. They coming straight to us.
Yeah, they coming to
they coming straight to us. Yeah, we know it's a camera, but
yeah,
we heard a gunshot.
Man, we can't carry shit nowadays, man. I mean, I got this umbrella. They're gonna mistake it for a gun. You got that camera, it's a gun. It's a gun, man. The best thing we can do is put our hands up, lay down, and pray to somebody, man. You know, there ain't too much hope left. From my understanding, that's the original church where the slaves huddled to have secret prayer service.
Sure, let's walk around there. Let's see what it.
And just imagine that when you got to sneak to pray. I think that sums up how hard it is being black in America. There was a time where we had to sneak to pray, and we this is living proof of it. You know what I mean? It's still here, and I hope I'm not mistaken, man, but if this is the location, I'm very glad that they kept it up and allowed it to remain standing, because it's like one thing to read it in a history book, but it's a whole nother thing to actually see it.
Right.
You know what I mean? When we pass through these little country towns like this, I always take a look at the trees. Because I'm like, man, you know, these trees were, you know, where they turned our ancestors into ornaments, strange fruit, you know.
At the beginning, they couldn't believe it was happening. But I figured South Carolina would understand, right?
But to actually see this standing building, as old as it is, it's a reminder that, you know, that stuff in them history books was real, depending on which history books you read. What do you think the oak tree was? Where they hung all of those people who were allegedly staging a slave revolt in that old church. You just got spotted by a cop.
Yeah, he's probably doing exactly like you said. Hey, those ain't white people over there. What the hell they doing over there?
Yeah, he should have did all that shit when Dylan Roof came and killed those people.
Hop in the whip, man. Let's see if we can grab something to eat. Find another place to kind of hang out and see what's going on around Charleston, man.
Sure thing, man. But one thing about it, race in America let's forget about my story. We got plenty of time to talk about that. In America, race needs a much closer examination. Because I'm sure 90% of the people you and I know, we all heard about this whole incident. We heard about the Dylan Roof aspect of it. Heard about the non-parishioners aspect of it. But what about the geographical landscape? You know, how come that was not a factor? You have this fabulous resort or whatever this is across the street that has a police presence here. How come none of those people picked up on what was going on over there? I mean, I'm very sure if somebody shot a Glock off in that building, everybody in here would be able to hear it, especially most of the time, you know what I mean? The geographical aspect of it is important. The historical aspect of it is important. We got to start looking at all of this stuff in its totality so that we really understand how bad this stuff is. Because I'm afraid in America, extreme racism is becoming way too normalized. So if we got to complicate the way we look at the problem in order to solve it, it's just what it is.
Racism remains a blight that we have to combat together. We have made great progress, but we have to be vigilant because it still lingers.
So after hearing my brother's opinions about the issue in South Carolina, you know, it's just, it is one of those weird things, you know, where you run into other black people and they look at you weird, like you're free. Like, it's like, I don't know, it's like they don't know how to enjoy life. They don't know that they're allowed to be a part of society. You're a part of the community. Like, they just have this really, we call it the damn slave mentality, but it's just this awkward demeanor as if you have a specific role as a black person in those particular communities. And, you know, we just found that to be strange. You know, we grew up in Orlando, you know, it's a very diverse area, you know, it's a melting pot. We're so used to growing up around all of these other people and just being individuals.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a live video recorder. Who knows what you know what, there's supposed to be somebody in that seat right there, the empty seat next to all the fucking sandwiches. Asian guy's where he's supposed to be. The black guy's where he's supposed to be.
I was gonna show off what I got, but I'll actually do that at home. I'm not gonna do that shit right now. I'm way too high to like even move it. It's like right there. It's like over there, but there's some stuff on it, so I'm not gonna.
You're being lazy.
But anyways,
you know, whether you're accepted by these groups or not, it's more about who you are as an individual, not so much about your race. And then you go to places like South Carolina, you know, and Charleston specifically, the black people there really seem to still have this outlook or this perception that, you know, they have to walk a certain way, talk a certain way, be a certain way, not interact or intermingle, you know, with certain areas. And it's just like, you know, we see it. I'm going to go wherever my money allows me to go. So I don't care what you think about me. You can call me nigger until you turn blue in the face. Until it costs me money, I really, really don't care. Like, they would never go to a nice place because they're like, oh, well, black people aren't supposed to go there. Well, why the hell not? Go do things. So, it's just, Charleston just gave me, as a black dude, just gave me a really weird feeling. We would just run across black people that would look at you like, oh my God, like, why you dressed like one of them kind of thing. Like, man, if you don't get the hell out of here and go put on some nice clothes and be a part of your own community. But I don't know. I mean, we'll jump back and forth about some of that stuff and, about the black communities in particular.
The relief, it was the fact that I could actually express this stuff. It was a big weight off my shoulders. Now, what I just described to you, missing that inspiration from, something black people felt as a whole with the Obama campaign is depicted in the back. You can see the portrait of Obama. It's nailed to the wall with an ink pen. And the words hope are on a plaque at the top of that picture. And it's hanging sideways, and there's cracks in that picture. Because even then, I tried to acquire some of that inspiration while I was incarcerated. But little by little, that hope started to diminish. So, I hung the picture up in my mind, but seeing what I was seeing behind bars, it was starting to fall down a little bit. I had to accept reality.
After Charleston, we decided to head to D.C. And again, my brother had this plan in mind of places that he wanted to see so we can go and document and he can just pretty much give his opinion. So we head to D.C., and we get out with D.C. It was just, we were just going to stop and chill and eat, just kind of hang out, look at some of the blossoms, just some tourist style stuff in D.C. But my little brother had something he wanted to say, and being right in front of the White House, it just seemed like a great place to say it. However, we stumbled upon this false prophet, which, obviously they still exist. So we decided to ask this guy, what is your message? What are you talking about? We thought it was just, perfect timing for this documentary thing that we were trying to put together. So we decided to approach this guy and ask him, would you care to share your message with us? We're not famous or popular or anything. The video will probably be seen like 8 people, but we don't care. We just want to put something together, and maybe your message somehow, will coincide with what we're trying to point out. But we were, this is the kind of person, I guess you could say would be led astray. Like this dude, we were thinking he has something important to say, we want to talk about it. But instead, he was like, let's go to Starbucks. And I love Starbucks. I just didn't want to go with this dude. It's like, no, dude, I thought you were trying to get something out. We want to talk about it. You want me to buy you a cup of coffee. Oh, you buy me a cup of coffee, fool.
I love the old days. You know what they used to do to guys like that when they were in a place like this? They'd be carried out on a stretcher, folks. I'd like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you. Get him out. Try not to hurt him. If you do, I'll defend you in court. If you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of them, would you? Seriously.
Well, it made sense of everything. I think you're talking about the State of the Union piece. And in that piece, it actually had Trump. He says a lot of things.
A hater of Donald Trump, a hater. He's a hater. The judge, who happens to be, we believe, Mexican, which is great, I think that's fine.
If you are saying he can't do his job because of his race, is that not the definition of racism?
No, I don't think so at all. Well, there is a Muslim problem, absolutely. You just have to turn on your television set.
Did you mean all 1.6 billion Muslims?
I mean a lot of them. But they are not good people, and they are certainly not good for our country.
From what I gathered from all of the stuff that he says, he's spewing a lot of hatred, a lot of dog whistle, subliminal stuff, So I depicted him talking, but with a Nazi flag coming out of his mouth. Because regardless of what you think you're hearing, that's what he, in my opinion, that's what he's been promoting. Division, hatred, the dog whistle politics. So I had him depicted the way that I view it. A lot of people, they swear he was just, some saint, some angel singing on his way to church. But from what I gathered, he was, he had all of this divisive rhetoric, so I depicted that as in the most literal sense that I can think of.
The only one for me is you, and you for me, so happy together. I can't see me loving nobody but you for all my life. When you're with me, baby, the skies will be blue for all my life.
And that same piece, I created it around the time of the Post nightclub shooting.
With the person who pledged his allegiance to the Islamic State. You have to tell America to stop bombing Syria and Iraq. They're killing a lot of innocent people. You get what I'm saying? I do. You already know what I did.
Look at that, just shooting back and forth.
And one of the weird things about Pulse, this happened on the night of June 11th, the early morning of June 12th. And that day, that Saturday, it was actually my birthday. And on top of that, I had just graduated with my MBA. And during my graduation ceremony, I met this dude named Daryl Burt. Daryl I ran into because he was speaking to my mom. He was talking to my mom. She was telling him that she had just drove down from Jacksonville to come to my graduation. And he was telling her that he was also from Jacksonville. So when he and I met, he told me that he worked for Kaiser, and I went on and on telling him about my girlfriend had just finished Kaiser, the nursing program at Kaiser, and how she thought it was great. And then of course, just typical business students, we started comparing ties and socks, and he had this bow tie on, and I had these wild socks on, and we were just celebrating the fact that we were getting ready to graduate with our master's degrees. And he was telling me that he was going to be in town, he was going to go party, and I was like, oh yeah, we're going to go party also, and you can link up with us if you want. My crew is like a big gamer crew. We hardcore game in our free time, so we were going to go to this spot called Player One over by Disney, and he told me that he was going to be downtown, and I was like, all right, well, we usually hang out there for a while, and then we'll hit downtown later, so when I get downtown, I'll hit you up and we can link up. And he was talking about Pulse, and I was like, yeah, that's like one of the hottest nightclubs, for our gay community here in Orlando. And that I know the owner's nephews, like they're good friends of mine. And I was telling it's a great place to hang out because I usually go watch drag queen shows at some of the places in town. And, so it's not a weird thing to me. And, later on, if he was down for it, we could all link up and just be one big crew and, just kind of hang out with us. So we ended up staying at Player One for most of the night. And then, later on that night, after we got home, it was just all over the news about what happened. And I'm just, in my mind, I'm just going crazy because, I know so many people who party there. Like a couple days later, they weren't immediately identifying people. As they started releasing names of the victims, Daryl came up. And man, it was surreal. It was like, I just met this dude earlier today. We were celebrating our graduation. We just finished, graduate school, and not even 24 hours later, it was just like one of the worst things in the world to hear. And it's right here in my own city, right down the damn street. And it was just unbelievable.
And, of course, Barack Obama was still president.
We stand with the people of Orlando who have endured a terrible attack on their city. Although it's in the face of hate and violence, we will love one another. We will not give in to fear or turn against each other. Instead, we will stand united as Americans to protect our people and defend our nation and to take action against those who threaten us.
In that piece, he's standing on top of the LGBT flag, and there's a count of 49 bullet holes in that flag. And over the flag, he's breaking the AR-15 over his knee. And also, you got Hillary Clinton hooked up to a lie detector test. That's not to say that I was depicting her as an untruthful person or anything like that. It's just that she was plagued by that. I think it was over-exaggerated. Character assessment, people painting her out to be some untruthful woman whose emails are more important than any of the numerous things Donald Trump was doing. But the untruthfulness plagued her. She misspoke a lot, and they embellished it to make it seem like she was just some extreme liar. So I depicted her as that. Also in that piece, that same flag that's coming out of Donald Trump's mouth, Bernie Sanders is underneath him setting it on fire. So it was just my depiction of the candidates and what was going on around that time in politics. But I noticed that around that time, most of the people that would join in the conversations I would be having, they'd be just as vocal as me, and a lot of them were getting real quiet. So to me, that was a sign of either a guilty conscience or some form of being uncomfortable. And that was telling me everybody who voted for Trump. I didn't have the best of things to say about it, but I noticed a lot of people who I would have never expected to vote for him, voted for him. And some of them I don't even talk to anymore. And, it's gotten that divisive. That's that great America, man. This is the time that, America's supposed to be great. And we did it as a country at the polls, man. And what I want a lot of people to take into consideration, and I think it's something, people overlook for quite some time, because I never heard it brought up on any news station or in anything that I've read. But this whole mantra of Make America Great. Now, I've heard people correlate it to a whole bunch of racist philosophies. What I want to know is how come nobody ever pointed out the fact that Hillary Clinton addressed it?
We believe that cooperation is better than conflict, unity is better than division, empowerment is better than resentment, and bridges are better than walls. He's not just trying to build a wall between America and Mexico, he's trying to wall off Americans from each other. When he says,
"We will make America great again,"
that is code for, let's take America backwards. Back to a time when opportunity and dignity were reserved for some, not all, promising his supporters an economy he cannot recreate.
She said, this whole Make America Great thing is not good for the country. I want to make America whole again. That's what she was saying. And she made that statement with regard to racial unifications, political divisions, all of that stuff. And Donald Trump issued a response to it. And his response was, I don't want whole, I want great.
Ja, dann tritt für mich ein, so wie ich für dich eingetreten bin.
So with that being said, he's flat out rejected anything regarding racial unifications. And the opposite, he defined it as great. I don't want whole, I want great, which means I don't want unity, I want division. And that's something people need to take into account. I don't think anybody really made that specific comparison, because that would have really been the proof in the pudding. But people need to think about that. You know what I mean? Because, like I said, there's a lot of people I love who voted for him, but for the rest of their life, they have to accept the fact that they fought a common cause, being Nazis. That's great as he defined it. Not great as anybody else defined it. He's the man with the message. So you accepted that message, you gotta live with what you did. That's what it is. Now he's making salat in the rain in front of the White House. He's making salat right now.
No picture? Okay.
He's recording. If you have a message,
That's why we want it. If you got a message, people need to hear the message.
Somewhere at like Starbucks or somewhere we can sit down.
drink coffee, whatever.
Okay.
And then
We're about to leave for New York.
Yeah, we're gonna go.
We saw you here, and we figured you had a message.
Right now, I have to go to the restroom, so it's not appropriate.
Okay, no problem.
It's ready
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
anywhere.
So after running into our false prophet in front of the White House, which was just perfect, we decided that we were going to go to Baltimore. And if you're kind of following the theme of this, then you know why we're heading to Baltimore.
It was a way to voice my paranoia. Like if you look in the back, you see the pyramid with the all-seeing snake eye, the boxing gloves. He's right there behind the judge. I was feeling, very paranoid about the criminal justice system itself. With my personal experiences and my personal case, I felt like there was a lot of corruption going on. I won't go into the specifics of my criminal case, but there was a lot of stuff that really had me paranoid about how the government works. And if you notice, the judge, she's slamming a gavel, and at the end of that gavel, it's an hourglass, and there's a rose turning into a skull. That was me demonstrating how I felt like my soul was being sapped. I've always been full of life, but when the only time I can speak to my brothers is through painful letters, where I can see where he's been crying on the letters, it made me not even want to hear what he had to say, just to keep that out of my mind. And I was dying on the inside.
Now with us, I mean, we are those products of, that economic transverse where, you experience different economic strata and you understand there's different behaviors, different changes. There's things are just different based on your income, and there's no way around that. And our mom pretty much took us from the hood into the suburbs, and it's just a very unique point of view to be able to see what it's like to be dirt poor to being in a more comfortable situation. So it was for us when we got into Baltimore. We after growing up in the hood, we'd never seen the bricks look so bad.
I think these are the apartments they selling for $1. Look at all of this shit.
Buy all the motherfuckers, dude. Turn this shit into all kind of shit. Shit, that kind of shit wouldn't happen in Florida. Man, that is your mansion, nigga. You put 4 of them bitches together. Gee, boy. Now it's out of town we on with these fucking roads. We gotta roll up through that too.
The living conditions were ridiculous, but they had a nice view of the overpass in downtown, but as far as the area we decided to stop in, it was until you see it with your own eyes, The Wire makes so much sense. I don't even think The Wire exposed, they didn't even show half of the stuff that we saw when we went over there.
Serious. Man, you let them motherfucking white people from Dr. Phillips get a hold of some shit like this. This shit would be a whole section off the fucking community.
School is busted down. It's like, what the fuck happened?
So we headed to the spot where Freddie Gray was killed. Freddie Gray was brutally beaten by 6 Baltimore police officers on April 12, 2015. He died a week later from his injuries, which none of the officers could recall how they'd happened. He pretty much they beat the crap out of the dude and then didn't give him the proper medical attention, which most likely would have saved his life. But at the same time, you got to think about it. You beat the crap out of somebody and you might get in trouble for it. You're probably not going to take that person to get help. Now, none of the officers were even charged properly for this murder. Instead, depraved heart murder, which means no one gave a shit, and manslaughter charges were the best to be offered. So if you want to kill a black man in America, you'll be fine as long as you show up to court with the appropriate vernacular.
This is devastating, man. This whole area, man. I never seen nothing like this in my life. Blocks and blocks and blocks of condemned buildings. Blocks and blocks and blocks of wasted land. The police station right across from all of that, and it looked like it was newly renovated, and for a community where black people already don't own nothing, and where black people they already got a distrust of the police. It's just so much wasted potential. I never seen nothing like this in my life, man. So much that can be given to these people that don't got nothing. It's right in their faces. Condemned buildings, real estate, potential to open all kinds of business. Now, if this had been anywhere in Orlando, you best believe it would have been gentrified already. Let the people in Portland, Oregon get a whiff of this. So, with the whole Freddie Gray situation, right? You got these people who, the full story still hadn't even come out yet. And you got this man who was tied up in the back of this paddy wagon. And they drove around recklessly with him, made all types of pit stops before they took him to the police station. And one of those pit stops, they didn't even report. Nobody even knew that they made this stop. It took for investigators to look at street cameras and all of this unnecessary stuff to find out that these police made that stop.
Protesters claim Gray may have been put through what's known in Baltimore as a rough ride. Officers allegedly using sudden stops and sharp turns to injure suspects. Commissioner Anthony Batts confirming that Gray was not wearing a seatbelt.
And it make you wonder what happened during that stop that they didn't want to tell nobody about. You got these police, and the justice system in Baltimore apparently works because they were prosecuted. They brought these folks to stand trial. They had their day in court, but guess what happened? They had, I guess in Baltimore you have a choice as to whether or not you want to have a bench trial or a jury trial. And as big of a bone as I have to pick with American juries, you can't put this blame on them because these officers all stood trial before a judge. And the judge just cut them all loose. Cut them all loose, man. And this man didn't get any justice. His family got paid a lot of money, but his culprits are still out here. This building looks like Baltimore really ain't playing that. You see this? After the riots and what they call looting and all of the devastation, some people still came up and boarded up signs of hope. It's crazy to see that on a condemned building and the site of this horrible tragedy and the site of a riot. Never lose infinite hope. Be the change. Justice equals peace. This stuff really happened. You know what I mean? It's like from our homes in Florida or, you know, wherever we at where this stuff is not in our face, it seems like it's just another story. But actually coming here and seeing the charred remains of where this stuff popped off at, and you can tell the people, they know, you can tell they got a sense of what we're doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, so far it ain't been nothing but love, man.
Yeah,
So,
nothing but love. 'Cause they know we ain't forgetting. It's unreal, man. It's unreal. It's just like when we was in South Carolina, just feeling the fear in the air from all of the black people. It's almost like half of them were scared to speak. Like we rode up to the plantation on a horse. This stuff is insane. And now that I'm realizing how real these issues are, it's imperative that we solve them. Like right now, you know what I mean? There's absolutely no effort. I mean, just look across the street. How long have those buildings been like that? And how long are they going to be that way? People can live there.
Cummings District is a disgusting, rat and rodent infested mess. If he spent more time in Baltimore, maybe he could help clean up this very dangerous and filthy place. No human being would want to live there. It's crime infested and breeding concept. Infested, he says. The president says about Congressman Cummings' district, that no human would want to live there. You know who did, Mr. President? I did. From the day I was brought home from the hospital to the day I left for college. And a lot of people I care about still do. There are challenges, no doubt. But people are proud of their community. I don't want to sound self-righteous, but people get up and go to work there. They care for their families there. They love their children who pledge allegiance to the flag, just like people who live in districts of congressmen who support you, sir. They are Americans too.
It's renovated and have living quarters for the homeless. It's right across the street. I mean, it's the same thing for blocks and blocks and blocks. It didn't look this bad on the wire. Not even then. But it's almost like they just putting it in their faces that you're helpless and you can't do a damn thing about it. I couldn't imagine. Now, we drove through these blocks for about 10 straight minutes collecting footage of the condemned buildings and still couldn't get you 10% of the condemned buildings. This is unbelievable. Condemned churches, condemned schools, blocks and blocks and blocks and blocks, and we ain't even go on that side of the road. An entire city.
like a ghost town. And people have to live in it.
There's more ghosts here than people. Honestly. Where's the hope? It's very hard to believe that there are black people in this country with any money. You can't, I don't even believe Jay-Z and Puff Daddy them got any of that money that they're talking about unless they just use it to are they setting it on fire? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you guys had any money, any sense of responsibility towards the black community, how come nothing here is fixed up? You don't got to be from Baltimore to care about what's going on with these people. It's amazing these people can get up and have a conversation with one another, let alone laugh or give somebody a compliment like they gave me. The right people don't have the right money. These dudes pouring champagne on women when they could have bought one of these units.
Shit, all of these units.
Oh, man. It's outrageous. I hope I don't ever touch none of that money. Breathe some life into the city, man. I could have never even guessed, watching any documentary, TV show, news program, that something like this existed in America.
Yeah, that wasn't a movie set.
This is worse than what I've seen on those Feed the Children commercials. This is a horror. This is a real tragedy. And that's not in any way, shape, or form downing the people of Baltimore at all. But the city of Baltimore should be ashamed of themselves. There shouldn't be a single 2018 police car nowhere on the streets under any of these conditions. What sticks out the most in this picture is probably that noose at the bottom. And over the years, slowly but surely, I ended up coming to grips with the fact that the Florida prison system, at least I can speak on behalf of the Florida prison system, was the new Jim Crow. And Ruby said something that set off some alarm bells in my head, was that if I interpreted it correctly, one of these prisons used to be a plantation. And the way that I seen things from an eyewitness account, I wouldn't be surprised if all of them were built on plantations. Because in the Florida prison system, the racism and the racial injustices, they're right in your face. There were instances in Florida where federal agents seized cell phones from correctional officers that revealed that they were actual Klansmen. Klansmen who tracked down inmates they had a bone to pick with after they're released and tried to get them hit, paid federal agents to get them killed. And in one specific circumstance, the federal agent sent a doctored image of a dead body to these guys, and as soon as they got to cheering and ready to make their payment, they were put in cuffs. It's something to celebrate, but these are the type of people that work here. It's the type of people I had to be around. And one thing about it, behind bars, there's no reason, there's no incentive for anybody to keep that stuff under wraps. They'll tell me to my face what's real, but you guys will never see that.
Big boss bill buckle under my Michelin S. Oh, Gucci shades up on my braids when I escalade. When I'm riding spree wheel sliding like an escapade. I got it made, the big boss of the north. Ain't shit changed, I still represent Swisher House.
While I was in confinement, I found just random things to draw on, like the backs of request forms or DRs or canteen order forms, and I just...
You using felt pens, or were you using ink? Or what were you using as your medium there?
A broken piece of a pencil with no eraser, so I had to make sure I was careful the whole time.
Okay, all right.
finally made it to New York. We ended up a bit early, so we probably could have made it to Philly, but not enough to stop to where we really wanted to. We wouldn't have been able to spend a ton of time out there. We really wanted to just go out to Philly anyway. But I mean, we were like all over New York in one day, so that was like the benefit of driving there. There's also a lot of negatives to driving around New York. Yeah, we hit Jersey to grab some Chinese food. We stopped at every damn Starbucks all throughout New York, like literally, especially in Manhattan. Every borough, I mean, we had a blast, man. New York, New Jersey, you know, I would love to stay, but fuck y'all's potholes, man. Y'all gotta do something about the potholes, man. One of them shits in Jersey almost ate my whole car, dude. It was like racing subway trains. Man, y'all gotta fix those potholes. Other than that, man, Jersey and New York are both beautiful places to visit.
In prison, we have access to radios.
Nobody had the guts to stand up and say no to a black guy. It's perfect affirmative action.
This is utter BS.
How's that hope and change working for those people?
I found that listening to talk radio was giving me, it was really making me wise. I was actually being enlightened listening to the likes of Rush Limbaugh. And I felt like I was filling a void because some of the stuff that I was learning about, I felt like I could not live without it. I began thinking about what I could do to make life better for not only myself, but people in my position who were living in schools. You know, you were in society without knowing how the government functions, without knowing how important your constitutional rights are. And I was just living blindly. And that's almost a recipe for going out and committing crimes and breaking laws. So here you have in the top left-hand corner my depiction of how I perceive Rush Limbaugh and the conservative talk radio that I can only access. And I always wonder, how come there's no liberal talk radio? How come there's no other talk radio available to us other than what's on the right? So in the top left-hand corner, you have a person speaking into a microphone. And you can see that microphone's turned into a syringe. And there's a drop of poison at the bottom of the syringe. And if you see what's coming out of his mouth, you have a Confederate flag and a Nazi flag. That's my way of depicting dog whistles, because while I was learning how the government functioned, listening to the likes of Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity, I could tell that as a black man, I was not expected to be a part of that audience.
Art was his way of escaping, like many people who are serving time. Needless to say, he was an artist before running into trouble, but you know, you gotta eat. So they would literally sell their artworks for food, commissary, money, you know, or whatever other barter items they had there behind bars. These are some of his drawings he was able to smuggle to me over the years. Now, in his book, It Takes a Criminal, he exposes the corruption within the legal system and provides some very graphic, detailed experiences about his time being locked up.
When I was there, we had a woman who was an officer who supervised the inmates in the classification area. And she kept a pre-drafted DR for lewd and lascivious, right? The DR was already pre-written. Now, this DR would allege that an inmate was looking directly at her and stroking his erect penis. And she would come out to everybody in the classification lobby and show us the DR. And she says, anybody that I catch talking, I'm gonna fill your name into these blanks. I left the name blank, I left the DC number blank. If I catch you talking, you going to jail for lewd and lascivious. So in that classification lobby, his biggest mistake was probably just having a conversation with somebody.
Between his book and artworks and his always grinding mentality, he was asked to speak at ICP in New York. And no one can give you more insight about a problem than someone who's had to live and breathe that problem.
I really wanted to change. And it's depicted here, if you notice that bullet down in the bottom corner, the bottom right-hand corner, there's a butterfly hatching from it. Because in prison, it's easy to gravitate towards different religions and different popes and all of this. At one point I thought I was a Muslim, I was a Buddhist, I was a born again Christian. I reached out to everything trying to pray my way out of it, which I ended up neglecting because in my opinion, it was wrong. But deep down, I knew I wanted to change as a person. And whether I did it through religion or anything else, it had to be done.
Once we got figured out in New York, man, we threw the car in the garage and then hit the streets on foot. We only did that because it took 2 hours to get 3 miles in Manhattan to get gas. So it was like, nah, son, fuck all of that, kid. Like, it's seriously, like, we were going like 2 or 3 blocks over, and it took us 2 hours, like, in the car to go somewhere that we could have walked in like 15, 20 minutes. So the point of this story is that no matter what happens to you, you have to keep grinding. It doesn't matter, you know, what's going on, what gets thrown at you in life. Life isn't easy. It's not meant to be easy. It's just not going to be. It never will be. You can run into $1 million tomorrow. You're still not going to have an easy life by the end of the week. You'll be able to solve some problems, but you'll have a whole new chapter of problems to deal with. And then keep in mind, you know, even as black men in America, especially to the black men, it's difficult for us to just get justice. Justice isn't even supposed to cost us anything. You have to understand that this country will completely destroy you and everything about you. You have to get in there. You have to have an extra hustle. You have to be a jack of all trades. You wanna be the cream of the crop. Just trust me on that. If not, the slightest mix-up can just set your entire life back. Like that's how it works against black men. It's like we're given. I'm not gonna say we don't have opportunities. We do have opportunities, but they are slim as hell. And when you can't capitalize on those opportunities, there's no telling when those opportunities will resurface for you. And it's up to us to be the victims or to show them that they can't stop us from living life. Black man, pack your stuff and go see the world. At least this country. It's ours just as much as it is theirs. Don't let them keep you quarantined to the hood. They don't want you to know how big the world is and how many opportunities will fall into your path. It's easier to control you if your mind is doing all of the work for them. The struggles are part of our maslow, like, you know, that's part of our life, our path. You know, you just need to make sure you learn along the way and remember to be your brother's keeper. Shalom. Proud, man, on the hunt. The hidden treasure never comes to you. You gotta go find that shit.
Probably right there where that window's open.
Yeah, but that's like some old ass Busta Rhymes too. Normal people aren't bumping that. They fucking power plant, like this shit like the size of a city by itself. That shit look like 12 downtown Orlando.
Back it was like 20. And there ain't no way a nigga could see all this goddamn shit.
Damn, it's another fucking tool for this shit.
Even more shit. This is crazy.
In a city like this, how in the hell can you not find somewhere to fucking fit in?
How can you not do any of the fucking thing? Bronx. down. Orlando and Goodfellas Barbershop. Picture that shit. Man, that bitch was finer than the
Man, we just got here, man.
You missed that bitch. She had green hair, green eyes, and everything else. Damn, boy, these Bronx bitches is bad, son. Get out of the road, you moron. I'm just waiting for somebody to say some shit like that.
Shut the fuck up. Get out of the way, you jerk.
You jerk. You moron. New York is not as scary as they be saying in the rap songs, son. I'm sorry. The Exxon ain't even open, man. Our shit open later than this. Yeah, hopefully you come up here with some bread because, man, that New Jersey Turnpike killed us. Like $16 at 3 different spots. Yeah, like $50 left. Yeah, Nathan's gonna come pick you up.
We're underneath the train, kid.
Walk downstairs.
Yeah, I need a new suit for work tonight.
That's it. Send your assistant, send your secretary downstairs to Michael Kors.
Nah, but look at the advertisement, man. I'm trying to make it to this kind of fucking level. Have my work like displayed like this, like somebody likes that shit that much.
Town Square. This is where my hotel's gonna be. Let me see where the box new. Hannity, where you at? That ain't got shit on the CNN. Okay, we gotta hurry up and get back to New Jerusalem.
Thought we were going to the airport.
Yeah, I'm saying after we get back from the airport, we gotta hurry up and get back to New Jerusalem. Got work to do, kid. Work, the grind. Got the city in this.
Yeah, nigga, this is where Spider-Man be hanging out and shit. Show up out of nowhere.
Yeah, if you already $1 million dude, you got $1 million, $1 billion planes, you got to be in New York.
Here or LA?
Oh yeah, cause shit, LA bigger than this.
I should take this Long Island and shit, nigga.
Vegas was something else. You on your New York this year? You not on your New York?
Yo, dun. I'm tired of the insults, kid. You know what I'm saying? We going to Queens, man. What your lady want us to do?
Get there on time?
Not your real lady, your GPS lady.
Go straight.
The funniest shit to me though, all this shit in New York, all these old ass AC units, the window AC units, they got a shitload of them fucking things.
Yeah. Myself in my heart. You see what I'm saying? Because already it's a tight squeeze trying to get me into this program, and it's supposed to be about photography. They have tons of pictures. I don't have no pictures. I just got artwork. And I have to make myself relevant in the conversation without trying to be a fucking ball hog at the same time. I got to really contemplate this shit. Then I got to say the right shit, you know what I'm saying? Ain't no easy shit to do. I did have my duty.
I thought you had to stay in your lane, motherfucker. What's not? That's the case. Damn, that nigga. Look at that motherfucking bus.